They opened the tomb, and death followed. In 1922, when Howard Carter unsealed the ancient tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun, he didn't just disturb a mummy, he may have unleashed a deadly curse soon after. Mysterious deaths, bizarre illnesses, and chilling coincidences began haunting the team. Was it just superstition, or something far more sinister hidden in the sands of time? This is not just legend, this is history's most baffling mystery. And today, we're going to separate the chilling truth from ancient fiction. Welcome to Decoding History and Science, where we dig deep into the past and uncover the mysteries that still shape our world today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the journey into the unknown. The tomb that shook the world. In the blistering sands of Egypt's Valley of the Kings, the year was 1922, when one of the most iconic archaeological discoveries in history unfolded. British archaeologist Howard Carter, after years of relentless searching and near defeat, finally uncovered the sealed tomb of the boy king, Tutankhamun, Pharaoh, who died mysteriously at just 19. The moment Carter peered through the small breach and famously said, "Yes, wonderful things," the modern world was instantly gripped by ancient Egypt's silent majesty. The tomb was untouched, packed with glittering treasures, golden statues, and intricate funerary objects that hadn't seen light for over 3,000 years. But beyond the gold and glory, there was something else. Something ominous. Whispers spread quickly. Egyptian locals warned that disturbing a royal burial could unleash an ancient vengeance. Some hieroglyphs in nearby tombs even hinted at curses placed upon anyone who dared violate the resting place of a pharaoh. No one took them seriously at first, but within months, strange things began to happen. People involved with the excavation fell ill. Some died. The world, once in awe, now stood frozen with a haunting question. Had something truly been unleashed from the tomb? This was just the beginning of what would come to be known as the Curse of the Pharaoh. The birth of the curse, the legend of the Pharaoh's curse, didn't begin in ancient times, it was born in the modern era. The moment Tutankhamun's tomb was opened. And it wasn't carved in stone, it was printed in ink. Just weeks after the tomb's discovery, British media exploded with eerie headlines like, "Death comes on wings to he who enters the tomb of a pharaoh." This phrase, though never found inscribed in Tutankhamun's tomb, was enough to ignite public imagination. The press, especially in Europe and America, ran with it. Superstition sold newspapers, and the idea of a deadly curse spreading from the sands of Egypt into the modern world was too irresistible to ignore. Then something happened that took the myth from story to sensation. Lord Carnarvon, the wealthy English aristocrat who funded Carter's expedition, died suddenly in Cairo, months after the tomb was opened. He had suffered a mosquito bite on his cheek that became infected, leading to blood poisoning and pneumonia. His death, combined with a mysterious citywide blackout at the exact time of his passing, seemed like something straight out of fiction. But it wasn't. It was real, and the curse, it had its first alleged victim. Soon, more incidents followed each, one fueling the legend further. But were these just coincidences, or was there a pattern? As fear took hold, archaeologists, scientists, and even the public began asking the same chilling question. Did the ancient Egyptians really place deadly curses to protect their sacred dead? The world was now watching hand. The curse had officially been born. The mysterious deaths. After Lord Carnarvon's sudden and strange death, the world couldn't look away. What began as a legendary discovery quickly turned into a real-life horror story. Over the next few years, more people connected to the tomb began dying under mysterious circumstances. Here are just a few cases that fueled the belief in the curse. George J. Gould, an American financier who visited the tomb, died of a sudden fever shortly after returning home. Aubrey Herbert Carnarvon's half-brother went blind and died just months after Carnarvon himself. Hugh Evelyn White, an archaeologist who helped catalog items from the tomb, reportedly committed suicide, leaving behind a note that read, "I have succumbed to a curse which forces me to disappear." Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, the radiologist who took X-rays of Tutankhamun's body, also died under unclear circumstances. Altogether, more than 20 individuals associated with the tomb died within a few years, many from infections, fevers, or unexplained causes. The patterns seemed too chilling to ignore. But curiously, Howard Carter, the man who opened the tomb, lived for another 17 years. He died peacefully at age 64. So why did some fall victim and others didn't? Skeptics pointed out that in any large group of people, some are bound to die naturally over time. But for believers, the timing, the causes, and the eerie similarities were too much to be called coincidence. And for millions around the world, the message was clear. The curse was real, and it was claiming its victims. Science versus superstition. For decades, the debate raged on. Was the Pharaoh's curse real? Or was it simply ancient superstition amplified by media hype? Scientists eventually stepped in to investigate, and what they found was surprising. Some researchers proposed a natural explanation: toxic mold and bacteria. Tombs sealed for thousands of years can create the perfect environment for harmful microorganisms to grow. Studies later found that Aspergillus, a deadly mold that can cause respiratory failure, was present in many ancient tombs. Inhaling it in large amounts, especially in a confined space, could indeed prove fatal, especially for those with weakened immune systems. Other scientists discovered formaldehyde, ammonia, and hydrogen sulfide gases inside old tombs. These could be released when ancient seals were broken, causing dizziness, illness, or even death. So maybe the curse wasn't supernatural at all, it was biological. Still, not all experts agree. They argue that the number of deaths wasn't unusually high for the time. Many so-called victims were elderly or had pre-existing conditions. And while it's true some deaths were strange, they weren't statistically abnormal over a span of years. But here's where it gets more interesting. Despite the scientific explanations, people still believe. Even some modern archaeologists admit they feel uneasy in ancient tombs. Some Egyptian locals refuse to step near them. And some say fear itself. Psychosomatic reactions could be enough to make someone ill if they truly believed they were cursed. So, was the curse real? Maybe not in the magical sense, but in the minds of millions, fear alone may have done what no spell could, and that, in itself, is its own kind of power. Ancient beliefs and afterlife warnings to truly understand the idea of a pharaoh's curse. We need to step into the minds of the ancient Egyptians themselves. These were not just tombs, they were sacred gateways to eternity. The Egyptians believed in an elaborate afterlife. For a pharaoh to pass safely into the next world, his body had to be preserved, his belongings buried with him, and his tomb undisturbed. Tombs weren't just graves, they were power centers of spiritual energy. And to protect this journey, they used spells, warnings, and curses etched into walls, written on papyrus, or hidden in symbolic carvings. These inscriptions often promised divine retribution on anyone who dared enter the sacred space uninvited. One chilling example comes from the tomb of Tutankhamun. As for all men who shall enter this tomb, impure, there will be judgment, and annihilation shall be upon him. But these curses weren't always magical threats. Many were psychological deterrents, designed to scare off tomb robbers and ensure peace for the deceased. In a world where stealing from a tomb could mean eternal punishment, fear was a powerful security system. Now fast forward thousands of years, a modern archaeologist enters a tomb without understanding the symbols, unaware of the belief system they're disturbing. Imagine the weight of unknowingly violating something so sacred. Combine that with strange illnesses, unlucky events, and global media, and you get the perfect storm for a legend. In short, the ancient Egyptians didn't create the modern curse, but they planted the seeds. They believed in the power of the afterlife. And maybe, just maybe, that belief still echoes through time. Media hype and modern myth-making. If ancient Egypt planted the seeds of the Pharaoh's curse, it was the modern media that made it bloom. When Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered in 1922, the world was still reeling from the horrors of World War I. People craved mystery, adventure, and something larger than life, and the idea of a deadly ancient curse delivered exactly that. British newspapers, especially the Daily Mail, sensationalized every detail. Headlines screamed of death, doom, and the curse of the mummy. Stories twisted facts, exaggerated timelines, and linked nearly every misfortune back to the tomb. A mosquito bite, clearly the curse. A heart attack, curse again. And then came Hollywood. Movies like The Mummy took the myth and ran with it, portraying cursed tombs, reanimated pharaohs, and ancient magic as cinematic horror. Suddenly, the Pharaoh-esque curse was no longer just a historical footnote. It became a pop culture icon. Books, radio shows, comic strips, and later documentaries and internet forums all helped keep the curse alive. Each retelling added new layers, dramatized old ones, and blurred the line between history and myth. And ironically, the more scientists tried to debunk the curse, the more the public became enthralled by it. Why? Because curses sell. They tap into our fear of the unknown, our fascination with the supernatural, and our desire to believe there's more to history than just bones and dust. So while Howard Carter uncovered treasures buried in gold, the world uncovered something just as powerful. A legend, a curse, a story that would never die. The legacy of the curse today, a century has passed since the tomb of Tutankhamun was opened. Yet the Pharaoh's curse refuses to die. It's not just a relic of the past, it's a living part of our culture. Even today, archaeologists admit to feeling uneasy when working in ancient tombs. Some bring amulets for protection. Others follow quiet rituals just in case. In Egypt, locals still whisper warnings, believing that disturbing the dead invites misfortune. And it's not just folklore. In 2020, Egypt transported 22 royal mummies, including Tutankhamun's relatives. In a grand parade through Cairo, but shortly before the event, Egypt faced a string of bizarre incidents. A massive ship blocked the Suez Canal, a deadly train crash shocked the country, a building collapsed in Cairo, killing several people. Flooded social media, asking, "Did we awaken the curse again?" Even with all our science and skepticism, the fear remains, and Hollywood hasn't let go either. The mummy trope is still a billion-dollar idea. From blockbusters to documentaries, video games to novels, the concept of the cursed tomb continues to thrill, scare, and inspire. But maybe the real power of the curse isn't in death. It's in how it has endured through time, weaving together ancient beliefs, modern fear, and our deepest fascination with the unknown. Because long after Tutankhamun's treasures are locked behind museum glass, the legend of the curse still breathes. And perhaps that's the real curse, a story too compelling to be buried. Final verdict, fact or fiction? So, after a century of mystery, fear, science, and storytelling, was the Pharaoh's curse real? Or just an ancient myth reborn in the modern world? Let's break it down. The facts. Tutankhamun's tomb was real, untouched, and astonishing. Lord Carnarvon did die shortly after the tomb was opened. Other associated deaths followed, but most were explainable. Scientific evidence supports the presence of toxic mold, gases, and pathogens that could make people sick in sealed tombs. Ancient Egyptians did write protective spells and warnings on tombs, but no direct curse was ever found in Tutankhamun's tomb. The fiction. The infamous curse of the Pharaoh inscription. Completely fabricated by the press. Hollywood mummies rising from the dead, pure entertainment. Many so-called victims of the curse lived long, healthy lives, including Howard Carter himself. The number of unusual deaths wasn't statistically significant. The truth lies in the middle. The Pharaoh's curse may not have been a magical spell, but it was real in another way psychologically, culturally, and emotionally. It tapped into our deepest fears. Death, the unknown, the punishment of disturbing something sacred. It showed the power of belief, how a well-timed tragedy, amplified by media, can create a myth that lives for generations. And it proved how the ancient world still holds power over us today, not through curses, but through mystery. So, was the curse fact or fiction? Maybe not a curse in the supernatural sense, but a perfect storm of science, superstition, storytelling, and psychology. And in that sense, the curse is very real, and perhaps that's the scariest part of all. And so, the mystery endures. For centuries, the ancient Egyptians crafted elaborate tombs to protect their kings in the afterlife. But in doing so, they may have given birth to something. Even they couldn't predict a legend that would survive not just for a few thousand years, but through every age of humanity. The Pharaoh's curse, real or not, has become more than just a tale. It's a reflection of how much we still don't understand. About death, about belief, and about the power of stories to shape our reality. From the golden treasures of Tutankhamun to the silent shadows of his sealed tomb, one thing is clear: the ancient world never really died. It's still whispering, waiting, challenging us to listen. And if we're not careful, we might find ourselves standing where Carter once stood, face to face with the unknown, and asking ourselves, did we go too far? If you found this journey into ancient mystery as fascinating as we did, don't just scroll away. Like this video to let us know you enjoy this kind of historical deep dive. Subscribe to Decoding History and Science and join a growing community of curious minds. Comment below, do you believe the curse was real or just a myth magnified by fear? Your support helps us continue creating powerful, authentic, and thought-provoking content covering the truths that lie buried beneath history's surface. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a discovery. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we decode the past. To better understand the present, thank you for watching. And remember, some tombs are meant to stay closed, but some truths are meant to be revealed.